Hello, people. This is the Getcha Some Productions podcast. This is a show that is usually a show about music production from the first note to the last fan and everything in between. And we're talking today about what's in between, I guess, because we talk about lots of stuff. Um, Whatever is related to music production, and it could be um, songwriting, musicianship, music production, um, a proper attire for a gig. It's whether you should curse out your fans. You know, we talk about everything. But today, we're going to be talking about artwork because we're in the process of recording an album for our band, The Handshake. And Thomas Warming, who is a good friend and also a very talented artist, designed the album cover for the first Handshake album. Um, uh, and it was a piece of artwork that he had already made that he was kind enough to let us use for the first album. So we wanted to use his artwork again because we love his artwork. And it's great to have some sort of, I guess, like consistency of, I don't know, like brand consistency in a way. So Thomas is a really talented artist and also an old friend. And I welcome you to our humble show, Thomas.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with you.
Good, man. I love this stuff.
Yeah. Um, is it normal to be nervous, or is that?
Oh, it's normal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's not.
Is this your
I've
you're
done a
usually a
podcast. I've done
what's
podcasts before, but I've never done podcasts um where I talk about my work.
Oh, you
Um,
haven't.
no, I actually haven't.
Listen,
Um,
man, you're the man. That's why this is your feature.
I guess it is. Yeah. Um, there's a little bit of lag on my end here with the screen. Is that normal?
I actually do think it's normal because I've rewatched them and sometimes the lag it
Okay.
comes and goes, but when in the finished
Mhm.
recording, there's no lag.
Mhm.
I think
Okay.
Zoom
That's good to
I
know.
think Zoom records both ends of it and slaps it together.
Okay.
So
Okay. So matches. All right.
so
All right. Okay.
so why don't we start? Why don't you? So we're going to talk about actual specific pieces of art that you've created today. But just to give
Yeah.
everyone some context, why don't you talk about your, I don't know, you're just like your how you got into artwork and a little bit about yourself as an artist.
Um, well, I mean, I've been drawing and painting my whole life, I guess, for as long as I remember. Yeah, I was just always sort of in my own world. Um, I was very inspired by comic books and films, TV, like all kinds of things growing up. I grew up in Denmark, um, lived most of my life in Copenhagen. Um, I sort of, back in those days where there weren't really computers and you couldn't, uh, there was not a lot of options. Like if you wanted to be an artist, you could, there wasn't really that many art schools or there wasn't really that much um, for you. So what I did naturally was I got into advertising. So later I got into an advertising agency as an art director, and then I started pursuing more because I was a little disappointed, to be honest with you, with the whole advertising adventure because it wasn't really as much about drawing as I had hoped. Obviously, there's a lot of concept designs and coming up with things, and it's very creative, but it's not drawing like I imagined it would be. So I started also on the side, like taking all kinds of art classes, fine art, perspective drawing, anatomy, all those things. Um, just basically honing my skills and getting a lot of long nights like at the drawing table. And then I got into a um, studio with a bunch of other people in this town where I was already doing the advertising stuff. And then at some point, I ended up moving to Copenhagen, which is the capital of Denmark, and there was just more opportunity there. And I got into a really good studio there. But I was basically all the time I was in Copenhagen, I was in that studio with like 10 other guys that I considered to be the best illustrators in Denmark. Like they were all there. So that was amazing for me because I just learned so much from them. There was so much like many conversations. Everybody was always helping or looking over the shoulder and giving their critiques, which were brutal. Um, and just a lot of joking around, and it was fun, like a really, really fun. And many of those guys at that time um, were way ahead of me, um, both in terms of their abilities, but also in terms of just their careers. Like they had already published books, they had comic books. Some of them were working internationally for, you know, Marvel or DC or like publishing in France. For me, it was very exciting to just be able to learn, absorb all that. And I've always tried since to find sort of mentors that um, you're lucky to find if you find them, and that they are willing to mentor you, right? Always have somebody who's been around, done everything, very accomplished. And I've had some very unusual mentors that just have taught me so much about not just art, but also just business or ways to think and plan, organize, how to be productive, like what not to do, what try not to do. Um, so basically, when I was, I think, yeah, it was like when I was 40 years old. I had an apartment. I had that studio. I had another art studio that was for painting. Um, so the one studio was a commercial sort of illustration studio. The other one was an art studio where I painted. And then around the time when I was 40, I went to New York and showed off my work. And I just went literally with like a briefcase, organized meetings in advance, went to all kinds of publishers and agents, and knocked on their door like old school, with my portfolio, like here's my shit. like, and it was hard. It was very, very hard. As you know, in New York City, it's brutal. Um, but
I,
I made some, yeah, yeah.
around what year was that? Just curious.
So that would have been in 2008, I believe. Yeah, that was in 2008. So then I went back to Denmark because I had made one major sort of contact on that trip to New York for a month. Um, and it was a 3D animation studio. They were producing a feature film, 3D animated, and I auditioned with them, and it was a very unusual studio out in Brooklyn, and it's about 60 guys or something working on this thing. And so I went back to Copenhagen and I started working for them remotely, concept design, like, design the environment, to determine how this is going to look. What's that character going to look? What are those vehicles going to look like? How's the world going to look? Right. So I started doing that, but it was crazy because there was a 9 hour or 6 hour time difference, right? So a lot of the time when they would come in the morning and expect me to do like dailies and talk and like be on uh, meetings like to discuss because it's a very fast-paced industry, uh, animation. So that was like at 3 o'clock in the morning or something for me, right? So I was like, oh, like what's going on? Good morning, guys. So quickly it became a thing where it would be beneficial if I was in New York. So they sponsored a 3 year uh, work visa. Uh, Back then, I believe, ironically, I think it was called the Einstein visa or something. Um, Me and Melania, you know. Um,
Are you?
so
Good to know.
yeah, yeah, man. No, so I came over. I actually decided I'm going to do this, and I was 40 years old at the time. So everybody and anybody I knew in Denmark thought, "Oh my God, Thomas is having like an existential crisis or something," because like I sold my apartment, I got out of both my studios, and I moved. Like, and then I just got right into this work situation. And New York City, it's like 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and you're just cranking, right? And all those guys I was working with, they were in their 20s, just sitting there eating popcorn and playing video games and having like figurines everywhere. And I was 40. So it was like, okay, there's a little bit of a difference there. But no, so I did that for a long time. And actually, ironically, uh, the imagery that we're going to talk about today, I assume, I created all that at that time.
You know what? So now that you're saying that out loud, because you were saying create environments,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
that's what a lot of these images are. They're environments.
that's what they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
it's
cool.
interesting because, for the first time, because I had really not done digital illustration for very long. Like at most, I had done a year and a half or something. And like when I started working for the animation company, they gave me this enormous like Cintiq, it's called, right? Where you draw and paint right on the computer screen. Um, and I'd never done it before, ever. So it was like a huge learning curve that I had to learn, like all the mechanics of it. But so what happened was I was actually very hesitant to go digital for a very long time, several years. And it wasn't until like pretty much everyone else at the studio in Copenhagen, they had all gone digital because it was sort of like expected now in the industry. And it's because it's faster, it's cheaper, you can edit, you can send it. It was just like the old analog system was suddenly like an outdated sort of dinosaur way of doing things. Um, so I was reluctant for a long time. I wish I'd started earlier because I would have progressed faster. But I just was trying to hold on to the craft. But so one of the things that happened with the specific images, that series of images that I showed you, was that came around the time when I started really digging into Photoshop. Like, what can you do? Not only drawn painting wise, but suddenly you can do things that you were not able to do in real life, like analog way. So I started digging into creating realistic, like photographic environments, basically, right? That are created out of almost like collage. Like I would do all kinds of photographs, walk around New York, like take pictures of all kinds of weird stuff. And I would come home and I would chop it all up, and then I would construct something that doesn't exist, but so it looks real, right? And then I would start painting on that and like use the skills that I already knew how to do. And basically a lot of it was what I was already doing for the animation company, except I was just drawing and painting and putting things together real quick because you have to always show quick stuff, maybe three or four, five, six different super detailed paintings in one day, you know? Um, so you just have to think fast and know how to work fast. But that became those pictures. Um, so it was very exploring, sort of exploring, exciting time.
So I know that still you make a living out of doing some artwork, but and I know because we're friends and because I also see that things that you post from time to time in social media.
Yeah.
So a lot of art that you're producing, and there's a lot of commercial art you're still producing. Obviously, that's your job. But
Hmm.
there's also, I'm curious about, if you could just make art, just like whatever you wanted to do,
Yeah.
what would you do? Or and are you
Well,
doing that now? You on this? Do you
yeah,
like,
I
are
always
you like,
try.
yeah,
Yeah, so the way that I always have been working in the past and still try to work is almost like the Olympic um, stool that people step up on, like the first, second, and third winner. Like, that little stool they step up on or whatever, podium. So I try to always have a rotation like that where it's like one of them is money, right? One of them is jobs that create money, right? The other one is something that I really, really find creatively interesting, which is not about the money, and that could be anything. And then the last third one is something that really means something to me personally, right? Whether it's a new children's book I want to do, or like another book I want to do, or paintings I want to make, or something that's for me, but also with a mindset of having it be a product at some point, right? I mean, those days where I'm just painting for fun, um, they don't exist. But everything has a purpose somehow. But the way I do it is always I keep that in rotation. Right now, this is the most important. Right now, that's the most important. Right now, I need to make money so I can pay rent. Right now, I feel drained, like I need something that excites me, um, and so forth. Does that answer that in any way?
absolutely. And so for the record, I actually did want to just draw attention to the fact that the first thing is that book that you worked on, The Cannonball King.
Right, children's
That
book.
was, yeah, that was a children's book, and that was a favorite book in our household
Oh,
for a
really?
long time. Oh yeah, for a long time.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool. And maybe this is something we can talk about another day because
Hmm.
I do have an idea for a brand that's also a band, but that's also a story that I think would work very well in a children's book format and
Hmm.
or like potentially like an animated cartoon sort of format.
Okay.
It's been sort of a dream of mine for a long time, but I used to think about that a lot.
So you mean like something like gorillas or like whatever? What do they call
I don't necessarily know what it would look like stylistically,
them? Okay.
but I am a huge fan of Futurama, for instance.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
So, maybe something like that. And I would actually get friends of mine who are comedians to write it. I wouldn't
Okay.
even write it myself. I would just be, the idea person, but I would
Okay.
hire like the best people that I know to do all the parts.
Right. Right.
That's for another later thing. But every time we read The Cannonball King, because, Elizabeth, my daughter, is now 13, but when I met you, she wasn't born.
Right.
And then we got that book. You must have given it to us. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we read it for so many years. It must be still in one of these bookcases around
Oh
here.
my God, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
You know,
And so I remember that book very well, and I always liked it a lot, and I really did like the artwork a lot. Um, and
so
now,
that was before computers. That's all hand painted, like on paper
yeah.
with acrylic paint. And,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
you can tell
Yeah.
that's not a
Yeah.
digital. That's not
No,
digital
it has a
artwork.
whole other feel, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, is that can somebody? Well, is that still available for purchase if we leave a link somewhere?
I don't think so because I did that back in Denmark, so that must be like I don't know, man. Wow,
Okay.
18 years ago.
Because I would
But,
include anything we talk about, I'll include a
yeah,
link to it, because actually, by the way, I couldn't find your website.
really?
What is it? Is it just thomaswarming.com? Is it Thomas
No,
Warming?
it's a blog. It's a blog.
Okay.
Thomas Warming blogspot.
Okay. So I'll
So
throw that. That's one of our policies. We always link to people's
yeah,
stuff,
that's cool.
and
Absolutely.
I'll be sharing it all out. Oh, another thing that I'm just recalling,
Mm,
and these are all really different types of projects,
yeah.
was all those portraits you did that were like pencil. Like there were
Yes.
a lot of famous musicians, and those were so cool. Do you still? I think at one point you were just selling them all off.
Yeah, I was it's some it actually started like so this is one of those personal projects. I always wanted to do a book about the blues, right? Um Mainly because of my mom. Because my mom, before I was born, had a very interesting life. When she was very young, long story short, she was an au pair in France, Paris. And she was like 17, 18 years old. She somehow befriended a very, very famous blues pianist called Memphis Slim. And they were like in a relationship, right? Which even back then, and even in Paris, was kind of like weird because, with the whole racial um, agenda and everything back then. Um, but they were together for like 2 years, and Memphis Slim was he had become sort of this beacon for the blues in Paris. So all the musicians from America, like Sonny Boy Williamson, T-Bone Walker, Muddy Waters, like all those great blues musicians, um, they were basically treated like shit in the States. Like they were not even allowed, to have a drink in like the venue they just played at, you know. So what he did was he brought them all over to Europe. They went on tour. He organized all the tours through Germany, like France, and all those places. And these guys, for the first time, were like treated like kings, you know, over there, wined and dined and made good money, and people like loved them. And can I have your autograph? And like these guys could barely write, some of them. Um, um, so my mom amassed this, I guess that she just sort of, without thinking about it, held on to like collection of all kinds of crazy stuff, letters from these guys, all kinds of great photographs, signed things, like all kinds of wonderful stuff. And she kept journals of it. And so that is something that I have been working on. And it started basically with me just sketching, not finalized paintings, but sketching all these blues artists, like all the ones that she has taught, because I already knew their music. I grew up with it. I was like listening to Sonny Boy Williamson when I was 5. So I kind of stood out in kindergarten a little bit. But but so what you're talking about, that's what spawned all those portraits. Like suddenly, whenever I had time, I liked making these drawings, and then suddenly I had like a whole bunch of them laying around, and I thought, well, uh, maybe people want to buy them, and I put them up, and I sold a whole bunch of them, um, and it's one of those things. It's like people who have known me or grown up with me or went to school with me or know that I'm an artist and have, like you, maybe bought some of my books for their kids or whatever. Suddenly they could get like an original something for like cheap, because that the whole point was to just not sit here and be like, fuck, I have art everywhere. I need to like get rid of it. But that's how I did all those. Yeah.
Those are cool. But and you don't have? Do you have those in a collection online at all, or did you
No,
just have them physical? They were never digitized, and then you sold a
never.
bunch of them. So that's the
Yeah.
ship has sailed at this point, right? So
No, no. I take pictures always or scan
oh,
whatever I do. just so I have it, you know. But the problem is also like I've gotten more and more into the line of work that I do, and with my wife, when we work together, we write books together, like all kinds of things for celebrities, or it could be CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, or actors, or like all kinds of stuff, musicians. Um, the way that it's kind of turned out is, and I told you we're getting into doing documentary TV and stuff, and it's all very exciting to me. And but so it's not it's just different creative endeavors, you know. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so the thing a lot of times what happens is I'll end up suddenly being hired to do like a series of children's books for somebody who's kind of a celebrity or something. And then I cannot talk about that at all for like 2 years, right? And we are under constant NDAs and all kinds of stuff. So sometimes it looks like on my website, like it's like people are like, I wonder what the hell he's doing. It looks like he's not really doing anything. It's because I can't show it. You know, you cannot show it before it's out.
Right.
And I don't want to get in trouble, and I don't want to get sued. And like, you know,
And you have to pay the bills. So,
yeah,
if you're doing that, it leaves probably less time to do, a sketch of your favorite blues artist or something,
yeah.
whatever the case may be.
But those things are actually just like those things kind of tend to keep me sane because when it sounds crazy, but if I am totally overworked on the computer, like with digital art, if I work like 12 hours for like 2 weeks and I'm busted, right? It helps to just bring out all the paints or the colored pencils or the like and just sit and like do something quick and like and I don't want people to get the wrong idea because sometimes people are like um they're almost like because they don't really differentiate between something that's really finished or something that's just a sketch, right? So it's almost like, well, I kind of remember I used to remember that you were better than this, and it's like, well, it's a sketch, you know. But it's kind of you want to keep that going because it's not like riding a bike, you know what they say, you never forget. The thing is, with because of the eye-hand coordination and everything that goes into drawing and painting, you literally, if you don't do it, suddenly you have to. It's not like you have to start over again, but it's like, man, whoa, I gotta get on this now again to get to where I want to be, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, maybe they do, but I feel the same way about music sometimes. And I actually do have a channel, a YouTube channel, where I
Mhm.
post almost all of my practicing.
Okay.
And because, first of all, playing music is sort of like it's art, but it's also sort of like you're an athlete
Yeah.
and you have to maintain the physicality of it. And visual art is actually very similar
Hmm.
because you have to, it's like your brain and your hand have to communicate to a certain
Oh yeah.
extent, and you have to have the right muscles in your
Yeah.
fingers, and they have to have that memory of being able to draw the line in such a way. Otherwise, you're just drawing. You're not in control of
Yeah.
your tool.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely
Well,
100%. It's a
it's
practice
because
thing.
it's a craft. At the end of the day, it's a craft,
Hmm.
and when I guess sometimes like musicians, I guess is that's why they keep like I play the guitar too, and it's like you just if you don't run the scales like or whatever, if you suddenly have a couple of months where you don't play at all, and then you sit with the guitar and starts like suddenly it's like, God damn, what's wrong with my hand? It's like I used to be able to do this like faster or
Yeah,
better,
a hundred
right?
percent.
So you just need to sort of have it's like sharpening a pencil, I guess.
You have to, yeah, you have to keep it up
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
for sure. So okay, so I love so this just hearing you talk always reminds me about how much I love having this show because I love hearing people's stories.
Yeah.
But we do have an agenda.
What is it?
It's to look at that artwork and
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about it.
Yes.
So let me see if I can share my screen. I've done this before on the show. All right. Can you see your stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's start with this one because this is the one that we used for the first Handshake album.
Yeah.
But we just used basically just like an outline that goes as far as this pillar and then as
Hmm.
far as this pillar and
Yeah.
maybe up to here. It was just a square bit.
Yeah.
And I've shown people this folder of your art,
Hmm.
and people love it. And I think people really love it because it's just so detailed
Yeah.
and they're all so moody, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so
Yeah.
people just feel like, oh, there's so much detail, so it's very interesting to look at it. But also, there's some moodiness. I showed this to my friend,
Hmm.
um, a couple of friends, and they're like, oh, I love the lighting. A couple of different pieces because there's a couple that we're gonna look at. Um, but let me ask you, how do you want to do this in terms of going through them? You want to just talk a little bit about each one and just like, is there something you can tell us about, you know, maybe the inspiration to create each one or
Um,
and actually I was very curious about process and you said a little bit about how
yeah.
you take pictures and then
Yeah.
you know, I guess you must digitize them in some way and then you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I guess it makes more sense if I talk about how I work, right? Because when you've done something for so long, like I have, I've like just been a professional illustrator for like 30 years now, and uh, I tend to work in all kinds of different styles, which is good when you're freelance because you can get hired to do all kinds of different things. But in terms of leaving like that one sort of V. Thomas Warming imprint. It's like, or just so people tend to be like, you know, if they buy your art, they're like, oh, it's a Warhol. You can tell immediately it's a Warhol. So you can't always like tell immediately with me because I do so many different styles and jobs and like, but but as long as I'm alive, I'd rather be alive and live, be able to do what I do, than have to struggle and suffer the whole time. Um, so
Well, I do think there's a lot of consistency
yeah,
stylistically between these pieces,
oh yeah,
for
those
sure.
yeah, there are, and it's funny because the way when you're taught the way I am, when you do a lot of book and like graphic novel type of work, um, sort of sequential art, storytelling like that, you become very meticulous in the way you work. Like there's certain steps that you always do the same steps. You start with little thumbnails, like sketching out like very little ideas. Then you expand those. You make a sketch, like loose sketch. Then you take that and refine it in another sketch. And then you do sort of a final sketch, and then you transfer that to the painting that you're going to do in the end. So that whole process is a way that I've always worked. It's very much the way that the old directors, like Alfred Hitchcock and like recent, directors like Ridley Scott, they do all their work like that. But like before they shoot anything, everything is like totally mapped out. Like there's no surprises or mistakes, or everything has been planned, right? And that's what I used to do. But then at some point, it also gets kind of like a little, um, a little factory like, if you know what I mean. Even even if you're just one person. So then I started doing all those steps in my head. Like I would spend an enormous amount of time walking around thinking about how I could spend less time doing the actual work. So it makes no sense, but it sort of I skipped all those steps to get to where I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to execute it. So when I finally sit down, I know exactly what I need to do. But what I then sort of applied onto that method was that um, I just sort of applied because when you're that organized and it's that planned out, you can also kill the spontaneous sort of energy in it. You know, when you refine, suddenly it's almost like dead in the end, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So what I started doing was right before I started actually painting or putting together what it is I want to do, then I sort of just like opened myself up to suggestion at the very last minute. Sort of just like open my head, like I guess what people do when they meditate. I don't know, something. Um, and then whatever comes into my mind, I don't really question it. And for a picture like this, for instance, when I look at it, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? You know? But at the same time, it's like at that time, I didn't question it. I allowed it to happen and now it's there, you know? And to me, when I look at it, it reflects a lot of the first impressions that I got when I moved to America. Like when I first saw New York and Brooklyn, which are like two different entities, really, right? Like the grittiness of Brooklyn and some of the grandeur of Manhattan, right? So basically, when you experience something like that, it's like overpowering, like really overwhelming if you're a visual person like I am. So it was almost like a necessity for me to sort of uh, transform all the impressions and thoughts into something, right? So there was a lot of things going on. It's like, the neighborhood I moved into in Brooklyn with my now wife, Maya, was sort of a mix of an old Italian neighborhood, a Hispanic neighborhood, and a Hasidic neighborhood. And those three are completely different, right? You know, it's like three different planets, but they're right next to each other, like 2 blocks from each other, right? It was insane. So it's like almost going to a different country every day with your camera. And I was just snapping away at all this. Um, and that's when something starts building in your head, and it's like, I'm going to create like something out of all this that looks real, like in one image, but it's just it is what it is. Like when I look at it now, I'm a little overwhelmed myself actually. Huh. What was going
Okay.
on?
Well, let me tell you, I love to hear that
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
here's my reaction to all this.
Yeah.
I am so used to looking at this image because this album we made came out in 2012. So it's been
Right.
13 years that I've
Wow.
been looking at this image, in particular this little area here, like just from here to here
Yeah.
and then down here. And all I can say is that there is something, it's so New York, and I am born and raised in New York and in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and it just feels so appropriate that, you know, that if I was going to express myself, that this is, kind of like all this feels very familiar to me. For
Yeah.
you, but the way you presented it, because you felt so like it was almost like an assault,
Yeah.
and that's what it is like, you
You
know?
know, it's almost like, like for instance, I'd never been to New Jersey before, right? I've been to New York before. I'd been to Brooklyn before. I had never been to Harlem or Queens or but certainly not New Jersey. So the first time I went to New Jersey, under the tunnel and all that, you come out, see the sign, "Welcome to beautiful New Jersey," or whatever it says. Literally, the first 45 minutes driving through New Jersey is like a hellscape. It's just like this industrial, mad hellscape. Like for me, it's like there's no people, there's no stores, or like, do people even live there? It's just like it's like this dystopian, like, mad landscape. And I was like, fuck, this is one of the best things I've ever seen. Um, because it was just so alien to me.
Yeah.
So a lot of that sinks in. Um, and also the thing about New York and Brooklyn, especially Brooklyn, is it it seems like so much of it is just sort of like slapped together. Like it's like, oh, there used to be a house, but it's sort of gone, but it's and they decided to build something else, and there's some cables and there's some pipes. And where's all that going, by the way? Is it even working? Like, what is that? You know what I mean?
You know what? 100%. I think you just nailed it. I think you just described New York and Brooklyn in particular. That description basically says it all.
Yeah. Oh,
So let's just do all the city images real quick, because let's
okay.
do this one next, because this one is also just so in your face
Yeah.
that it's like holy shit. Like
Yeah.
you know what I
A
mean?
lot going on. Lot
There's
going
a
on.
lot going on here. I mean, this is
Yeah.
basically, Times Square in a nutshell. This is
Yeah.
the way Times Square feels big time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
I like to, in an image, I like to try and capture what something feels like more than what it looks like. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I like to get it accurate what it looks like, but the feeling of it, you know, like the
Hmm.
energy, the mad energy, all these people, where are they going? Like, what's going on? And you tend to, when you're in New York, you sort of look at everyone like there's something wrong with them, right? Like, it's like, what's this person doing? Like, why is he doing that? Like, what's going on? Like, why is he like that? Like, it's constant, just like all these questions, right? Like, um, and it's strange because Manhattan, the structure, the way that it's built, everything is just like a grid, right? Very, very organized. That's why it's so easy to navigate, like if you've never been there, right?
Hmm.
So you pick up on it's almost like a very mathematical sort of city, the way that it's built, and it makes it easier on your brain to sort of take it all in because you know how to get from A to B and all that.
Hmm.
Um, by foot, I mean, right? If you're walking around, um, I'm not talking about the subway. I don't even want to get into that, but but no. So I think a lot of this is, why is there a tiger there? Why is that phone hanging there? Why is that even working? Why is that? Who is operating that weird little car that's driving around in all that paint? Like, why is all that paint there? What are those hoses? Like, why are people wearing wrestling masks? What's going on, basically? This is one of those things. I'm not joking. If I was to, like, one day, literally, if I was to smoke a joint and look at this, my head would explode. Um, no, I'm not kidding. It's
I
funny
think
because
anybody would.
yeah, no, it's just like because it's almost like, wow, holy moly. And I
Yeah.
actually I had these made into like really big, beautiful uh prints by Saatchi and Saatchi.
Yeah.
Um, and people could buy them, and I got a couple of them myself, and
What size prints?
they're like huge. They're like, yeah, I don't know. What do you say? It's like, well, now we're talking metric system. So, um, you know, I would say like 1 meter, like 100
Okay.
centimeters
Yeah,
times
yeah.
6. But something like
Okay. So decent sized painting to hang in the
yeah, they're
house.
huge, right?
Can you still get them?
I think you
Can you
can.
still order them?
Actually, I'll have to basically look. I have not actually looked at that in quite a while, but I'll,
If you can, we
yeah,
should give people an opportunity to buy them if they want.
yeah.
Let's do hold on. There's two other like cityscape ones.
Hmm.
There's this one. Um this one's interesting. I think so the reason I like this one, but the reason why I didn't like it for the album cover was one, it was too dark, and number two, it was definitely like just too much of a strip club sort of vibe, and that's
Yeah.
not the type of like message I'm putting out for sure
Ah,
is not
come on, please.
not this album at least. Not this album. Maybe a future, maybe a different. I do have another
Yeah.
project where it might be appropriate, but not this album. But so what? Yeah. So talk about this one for a bit.
Oh man. Uh, yeah. What's
Like,
going?
what made you do this? What's this lady doing here, by the way? Like,
Well, so see, that's the thing.
oh,
It's
sorry,
like
my phone is talking to me. Go ahead.
all these rooftops. By the way, a lot of them I photographed from from our rooftop in Brooklyn, where we live, our
Oh,
apartment. So I took all these various photographs and then pieced something together that looked realistic, and then all these other elements of industrial shapes, um, and like you're saying, it's a very dark image. It's got a lot of sex kind of undertones going on.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then, you know, the eye goes down to that female standing on her own in solitude on that little balcony in her red dress. And there's a champagne glass in front of her.
Mm.
Um, so, yeah, you tell me, man, what does that mean? I,
I don't know.
I think it's one of those things where you sometimes when you're in a city like New York, where there's so many people. I live in LA now, and it's even worse. Um, I mean, not worse, but it's even worse. Where sometimes the more people who live in one place, the more lonely you can feel. It's almost like that taxi driver feeling. It's like suddenly you sort of get very secluded or reclusive, um, because it's almost too much for you to take in all of that.
Dude, actually, so now that we're sitting here, I actually do really love just sitting and looking at these images and talking about them.
Yeah.
And what I saw was, because I have the mouse, so I can sort of show you, but
Mhm.
I started looking more at the detail, and you see how there's like, it's New York at night, and there's these like streets and the darkness and these little lights poking through the darkness. And
Mhm.
that was what I was actually, before you said it, I was feeling loneliness from this
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
And it is sort of a interesting sort of dichotomy where it's there's obviously a lot of people because you have to have all these structures to house all these people, and it does feel lonely. But sex, which is a very intimate thing, is outside. you
Yeah.
know like that's what's lit up. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely a cool image.
And I guess it's hard to get around when you do something where it looks a little futuristic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's elements, there will always be elements of some kind of Blade Runner's thing in anything, because what Sid Mead created and Ridley Scott created with that was just like it sort of set the tone for a very long time, you know. Um,
Yeah.
that whole utopian dream, like with Star Trek, that everything is going to be beautiful and money doesn't exist. Nah, it's going to be terrible, you know.
That's not very optimistic of you.
No, hey, man, I'm not saying I'm Mr. Optimistic, but
Yeah.
um, I like to do things that I always try to do something that people can relate to beyond um, the product, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it's like, and also if you do a book cover, you have to do something that it sort of sells the book, it promotes it, and it shows you what kind of story it is, but without giving it away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I always think of all these things when I do these things because it's like The Great Gatsby. Um, F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, is like lauded as one of the greatest novels ever written. The cover for that book um, is like iconic now, right? But even then, it was like a it's this blue, like this blue color, and those two eyes, this woman's eyes, and we see, the distance and the light beam. And it's very simple, and it doesn't, like when you look at it, you're not going to have any idea what the story is really. But once you have read the book, that cover suddenly means a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's
Yeah.
weird because I was reading about it not too long ago. The artist who did that cover apparently only did that one book cover ever. I mean, what the hell are
Wow.
the odds, right?
That's
Um,
fascinating.
yeah, I know. So, but
Yeah. I
but
think.
this again also comes back to what I said earlier with opening yourself up to suggestion because um, but because you don't want to give people answers to everything. I think that's when things become like a little too on the nose and the message is a little too cut and dry. Um, no matter how beautiful it's executed, it's sort of like, yeah, um, there
Mm-hmm.
has to have there's got to be something in there that like I don't know makes you think or makes you sad or makes you happy or it has to be a combination of several emotions, I think,
Mm-hmm.
to fully work.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes, they say like in music, it's the notes you don't play
Yeah.
or where you leave space. And I think sometimes in poetry, it's like, if you spelled it all out, it wouldn't be poetry. It would be,
Hmm.
a manual. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is something about art and leaving room for interpretation.
Yeah. But
This is the
isn't that also that old, I guess that goes in music too, like when people often ask like, how do you know when it's done, right?
mm,
Especially if it's like visually and it's very detailed and it's very complex, then people are like, how do you know when it's done, right?
yeah,
And that's a good question because something is only done when you're able to hold something back, you know? You don't want to give everything because then it's over, right?
yeah.
So at some point you have to stop, but when is that? For me, it's usually when I work so long that I sneeze 10 times in a row and my body is telling me, okay, we're done here.
Your body tells you.
Yeah,
You have some sort of visceral reaction, like an
I
allergic
know.
reaction to
Yeah.
continuing to work.
Immediately, it's like suddenly I'm sick. I'm like, okay, that's it, we're done.
I I actually have developed sort of a technique
Hmm.
to I feel like there is something about art where it's like when you say you open yourself up and you just let it flow, like whatever comes to
Yeah.
you, you let it flow out. I
Hmm.
think I think that's the sort of the essence of art because if you can I think people should do some explicit preparation to create art,
Hmm.
whether it's life experience or it's practicing the art or it's you know um, uh, purposefully taking some sort of input in so that you have something inside of you to come out that will filter through you. But when
Hmm.
you're making the art, I feel like you have to just shut that off and just make something that with the feeling, and then and then it's not up to you whether it's done or not, in a sense, and it's not up to you whether it's good or not. Also,
Right.
it's just up to you to just get the process right of like, okay, I'm just gonna make. I've prepared as all I can, but then I just have to get this feeling out into whatever I'm making.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No,
all right,
I
so
agree.
so this one's very similar to the first one. It's definitely a cityscape, but this is more like a, like a midtown, a sort of, but talk briefly about this one.
So this is back to when I was working at the animation studio. I lived in Brooklyn, so every day I took the L train, you know, and then I took it to what 34th or something, and then I walked a couple of blocks up to the studio, right? Um,
Oh, where was the
oh,
studio?
the studio had moved from Brooklyn to Manhattan at that
Yeah.
point. And it was on
Because
54th Street or
yeah,
something.
this is I worked on in the 50s, and this is
Oh,
all very much like Grand Central.
yeah, exactly.
That yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that sort of area. There's some of these I feel like this architecture is very reminiscent of buildings that I've seen a million times.
yeah. And the thing is, I really love, that's one thing I love about New York, those corridors that connect, you know. There's just something like great about it because it's almost like in your mind you visualize like in some kind of crazy noir uh, style movie or whatever that there would be a gunfight on one of those or running back and forth and like I mean it's dynamic and it's sort of exciting, you know, uh, and it's all this gothic sort of style that it's built. It's very like strong, robust. But when you're on the street in New York and you're always looking up and it's like it feels like it just goes on forever, right? So I guess my my initial thought for this painting was, well, it's kind of like a city that goes on forever in all directions, you know, up, sideways, out, like because there's no end to it uh, wherever you look, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then I have all these like what I always do is I create all these like for you know that taxi cab that's like a monster truck or whatever that I also used in the other one, that yellow car right there.
This guy.
Yeah. Obviously there are no caps like that, but it's like when that's a part of it. It's like all the neon, all the old sort of the noir themes of it, the thing that something just goes on forever in all directions, and cars are these like insane sort of monster truck cabs um, that can just like if it wanted to, it could just like go straight over another car, you know. And if you ever lived in New York City, you know the cab drivers are nuts. And like they literally do not care. Like they'll, hey, I'm driving here, you know? So
Yeah. What I like about this one, and actually, so when you mentioned Blade Runner, and then we were looking at the other image, I was
mhm,
thinking noir, and I didn't mention it out loud
mhm.
because it was very noir, the whole thing. But
Yeah,
now that you're saying that this goes on forever, and I'm noticing, like, I did notice all these this like continuation of the theme of this bridge
mhm,
was continued all throughout. But one interesting thing is that from the vantage point of the person who's looking, there's fire here, there's darkness here, but in the distance there's light.
right.
Something interesting about that where it's like the city is like, I feel like the city treats you that way. You know what I mean?
Well, also it would signify because if there's light out way out in the horizon out there, it sort of signifies or it sort of implies that there must be an end to this madness
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I like, one of the songs is called Hope, the song I sent you.
Yep,
And
yep.
if any of these images feel like hope to me,
Hmm.
it's kind of like this, where it's dark where you are, but the
Yeah.
city is like that. The city is like, yes, it's grimy, but it's like but the city promises something. Not everyone gets it. In fact, most people don't.
Hmm.
They don't get the promise. I'm just looking to see which one we talk about next. Let's talk about this one next, because this is also just going along the theme of the city, and this is very
Right.
Brooklyn. Like, these water towers are so Brooklyn.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like if you come from another country like I do, we don't have water towers like that. Um, so immediately you start focusing and or I do, I get very drawn to things that that is unfamiliar, right? I'm very much a person who doesn't um like unlike a lot of other people in New York, for instance, who has very set patterns. Like they'll go to the same coffee shop every morning to get that cup of coffee before they go to work. I'm the exact opposite. Like I don't really have patterns, and I don't follow. I try not to follow any patterns really if I can avoid it, because it you just end up in situations that you've never that otherwise you would never see or experience. That could be good and that could be bad, but but in terms of so stylistically and in terms of putting together imagery like this, again, there's a ton of photographs that I took and all kinds of weird, signs and all kinds of stuff that doesn't really belong together, but then has this uh, rundown sort of weird world where it's a mix of industrial that's definitely not habitable, and then buildings where, obviously people live, and then all these zeppelins of various kinds. I've always loved zeppelins. Like I love zeppelins. The other day, I stepped out on our balcony and there was like this enormous zeppelin in front of literally outside. I almost fell off the balcony. I was like, whoa.
I love that.
um, yeah. but but so again, it's like this is one of those where there's only one person in the image, like the
Isolated.
blue one. Again, that woman in the red dress. Which now that I think, I mean, I've forgotten about that, but that appears to be some sort of theme, I guess,
Yeah.
throughout several of these.
Yeah, the Zeppelins are a theme, and so is
Hmm.
this, like, the one lady.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you just wonder, like, what the hell is she doing there? What is she thinking about? you know?
yeah,
Hold on. So
yeah,
let's pick the next one. I want to leave that one for last. Here, so this is also a cityscape in a sense. This is just bonkers.
yeah.
I
It's
like
crazy.
this. I like this. I mean, it's like this is like reminds me. This is a Japanese plane, right?
Yeah,
Um, Godzilla is a Japanese character.
yeah,
This is very, Asian inspired. This bottom bit, which is
yeah.
cool, and
It's a
this
real
could even
place.
be an Asian city, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like Tokyo, and this is a famous temple, actually, a garden in Kyoto, I think it is. But again, so I stitch all kinds of things together, and then I paint around it and on top of it, and like this was actually done before all the other ones we're talking about. So this
Hmm.
one is kind of like this was one of the first, I think, images I ever did digitally where I felt that things were coming together for me in a way where I could suddenly uh, do things that I would not be able to do normally, uh, like analog painting. Like there's so many like different layers and opacities and filters and textures and just all kinds of stuff, and yeah, you're right. It's like kind of like a silly, I've always loved the Godzilla movies and like all that. Um, I love I'm actually like drawn to a lot of like manga and um I love all the old the crazy Godzilla movies and Ultraman and like all that stuff like crazy. It's just like it's so wacky, it's so out there. And I love it. And um so this was sort of my like, okay, I want to do, you know, an image where all of that sort of comes together. And I at some point I had somebody buy a poster of the like a really big print. And I was actually like I couldn't believe it. The detail in this is just like mind blowing. The pond and the fish and the all of it. You can't really see it like this, but
Yeah.
so it's like one of those again. Like the bigger it is, the crazier.
It's really fun. But you
Yeah,
know what it reminds me of? Actually, a postcard.
yeah,
I think this would be an amazing postcard in Kyoto.
yeah. Well,
You know?
yeah. It's actually it was funny because some of these I had prints made like fairly large, like prints, nice, very nice done.
Yeah.
And I was invited to come to the Mocha Art Festival in New York, and I sold a lot of these prints there. I mean,
Yeah.
people really dug them,
Yeah.
um, and that's the first time where I was like, "Huh, that's weird," because I basically did those for myself.
I
Really.
I wouldn't mind having some of these in prints. They're so fun.
Yeah, they are fun,
Yeah. All right.
um, but also pretty disturbing. Um,
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this one again. What's this is actually what I wondered. What is, oh, this is actually the light coming up, right? This bit right here?
yeah, it's some kind of projection, I guess, of
Yeah.
some. Yeah,
I was reminded, I thought that was in like a UFO or something at first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is so where the other ones are more like sort of uh, almost like this is more sort of a cross between um 20s like kind of art deco but steampunk sort of like again mashing like sort of different eras together in something where it's like retro futuristic, I guess, right?
Where do you get these ladies from?
Oh, that one was from a fashion magazine or something, and then I just changed. I just like the pose,
Yeah.
right? So then I changed her clothing and her face and her hair,
Yeah.
but I like the pose.
Yeah.
And then I love dogs, and I specifically love Dalmatians. Like I guess it's like one of those things that the pattern, it's just the simplicity of it, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we have a few more. We have just two more left, I think.
Mm.
So this one actually, this is hilarious because you posted this. I think when I started asking you about your art again,
Yeah,
I think you went through it and you were like, "Hey, look at this! I made this a while back," and I think you posted it on social media somewhere, and you said, "This is all. These are all my fears."
yeah, I know, I know, I
I
know.
was laughing at that.
No, it's like it's terrible. I mean, it's I'm sort of horrified by it because I've always thought like in general, carnies, circus, clowns, all of that shit like is just like it freaks me out.
Yeah.
I'd rather be like in a room with cobras or something than at a
I'd,
carnival.
I'd rather deal with a cobra than a carny.
I don't know, but it's like no. And then there's something about the whole abandoned, lonely, sort of desperate. Everything is like flooded. Is everyone dead? Like what's going on?
Mm.
And this ominous
Mm.
sort of light to it. Why is it in the middle of the ocean? Is it flooded? Like what's I don't know what's happening. You know?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I hadn't even thought of this as being like a biblical thing, but
Yeah, and
now I
it's
am.
yeah, but it's also like it's an amusement park, so it's supposed to be something positive, right? It's
Of
supposed
course.
to have all this life and happiness and kids playing and the merry-go-rounds and like all of that. Instead, it's this horrific like image
Hmm.
to me. That was just like when I found it, I was like, yeah.
It,
Um,
it's like, it reminds me of the song Tears of a Clown by Smokey Robinson.
yeah, yeah,
But instead of Tears of a Clown, it's like the clown is God.
right.
And God just kept crying and crying
Yeah.
until the circus was no more.
Oh,
That's what I'm taking away from this now. And it's
yeah.
sunsetting. This is like the sunset on the human race.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That suddenly reminded me when you were quoting that song. Remember that other song, Roy Orbison, the candy-colored clown they call the Sandman, and you're
No,
like,
I do not know that song.
what is he saying here exactly? Like it's this beautiful song, but it's like that lyric is just like, whoa, you
Yeah,
know?
that sounds really dark.
It is like super dark. Like
Yeah,
only Roy Orbison could be like dark
yeah,
in, in a very strange way. Yeah.
cool.
I don't know if I
So
have any more to say about this one.
this is a I love the only thing I'll also add is that just this the image of the ocean is really beautiful. Like the way I just like the texture of it.
Yeah. Well,
It is
also
yeah.
because the water is black, it's very, there's just always something about water that's freaked me out. But,
Yeah.
you know, because it is, yeah, like they say, only a fool does not fear the ocean, or is that how it goes?
Well, I don't know if that's how it goes, but it should go that way because
Yeah, no, because water can be like so many, it could be beautiful, it could be bright blue, it could be very still and like kind of scary looking because it's not moving,
Mhm.
right? And it could be all black and sort of it becomes like this whole other thing,
Mhm.
like it wants to suck you in and take you ashore. And
Yeah, it can be very destructive,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
also responsible for life.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is the last one,
Hmm.
and this is the one I think I want to use. Um,
Right.
I've always liked this one a lot, and I really like I like the light, the way the light comes in.
Yeah,
And just as we're talking now, I also like how it's like this reading room, which is almost like a sanctum,
yeah,
but it's like, I guess at the bottom of the ocean or something. So it's like,
yeah.
is it your sanctum or is this like a watery grave or something, I don't know. But anyway,
Well, I mean, it's once again, without getting too, like one thing I've always been very fond of in fine art is symbolism, right? I like symbolism because of the sheer, um, like again, when you open yourself up to suggestion, it's like you put in a lot of suggestive things. You don't need to over explain things. Things can symbolize all kinds of things that really the viewer doesn't either know about or understand at that point in time, but later, maybe years later, suddenly they'll see something and go, huh, yeah, I never thought about that. That's kind of crazy with and then they'll put it in context to something that maybe happened recently or something that, so it becomes sort of a more timeless. And this one in particular is like because it doesn't have any people in it, right? Uh, Suddenly everything when there's no people and it's something is just like empty like this, but there's all these traces of people here, right? So it's like why are all those piles of books there doing? Why is the piano there? Why is all those little cars all over the place? right?
Wait, little. Oh yeah. So I hadn't even noticed that. There's a little car here and a little car there.
Yeah, they're all over the place, like funny
Almost like
looking.
children were playing.
Yeah, but they're like oversized, like it's some sort of man child who lives down there.
Maybe
Um,
that should be the name of my album, Man Child.
yeah, that's a good one. But see, also it's like this. It's got kind of like this crazy rug, all these patterns, all these lights, repetition and stuff. But it's underwater. The symbolism of it always suggests something subconscious when it's underwater. It's like you're dealing with something deep in your subconscious, and everything has a meaning. It's almost like your dream. You're analyzing a dream, right? Trying to analyze what is going on. And
Mm.
there's all these things that suggest things like, what's that dartboard doing there? Why is that red phone there? Like, usually when you have a red phone, you know that like if you see movies, it's like you only have a red phone if it's an emergency,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why else would you have a red phone? Like,
Mm.
you only use that when shit hits the fan or something is not right. You have an emergency. um, but otherwise, it's sort of very tranquil and relaxed, and I like the shimmering of the light and the. But also, why are there sharks? And is this a single sort of solitary construction under the water? And when you look up, you see there's sort of a whole city going on up there.
Yeah, I
So
was wondering what that was. So
yeah,
yeah, okay.
good
So that
question.
is a city.
It's definitely structures of some kind, right? Whether they're built underwater for whatever purpose, or if they were there before and then the whole thing got flooded. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the fact is that it's there, right?
Yeah.
So, and which would indicate that there is more people than just whoever happens to be inhabiting this room,
Mm.
right? Um, but ironically, I was happy you chose this one because this was the like literally this picture was the first picture that I gave my now wife. Did I tell you that?
You did tell me that.
Okay, it's like I'm not going to get into the details, but we woke up together one day in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And when she didn't live in New York at the time, but on the way out the door, since I had these prints made for the Mocha Art Festival or whatever it was, I gave her this specific one and drew a little heart on it, right?
Mm.
And so this has always been sort of a very special picture
Mm-hmm.
in that regard because she's always had it wherever she was and wanted it up on the wall. It's one of those things like when you're like me and you have a sort of big output and you do a lot of different stuff. I don't really have my own work on the walls because I tend to just sort of focus on something and look at it and be like, ah, shit, I should have done that differently, and this doesn't work, or why, oh my God, what was I thinking? So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, but this is one of those that for her, I know has special significance, and I think it's very cool that you're going to use that one. Why did you choose this one?
You know, um, I think when we made the first album,
Yeah.
it was a lot of trekking around in Brooklyn,
Hmm.
and we were going to a rehearsal studio in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and I was picking up my drummer, and he was in Brooklyn, and we were meeting, and it was just an urban experience,
Yeah.
and I feel like, and the album is kind of a little bit rough,
Mm.
you know. Um, it's it
Well, I've
is
only
in
heard I've only heard that one song you sent me, and I was very, very surprised by it because I've like you said, I've known you for a long time, but it's not
yeah.
like we saw each other all the time or had brunch every freaking
Yeah.
Sunday, you know, it's like,
Right.
but I would show up to your concerts and uh, have some fun and like show support. And, but also I can hear that this new song that you sent me, it is very different in many ways. Uh, and I really, really liked it. So, it's like also it's like a new direction for you, maybe a little bit, or
Yeah. This album is going to be a bit darker
yeah.
and a bit more introspective, I think,
Hmm.
than the first album. So this feels to me like, I don't know, it's just like I go on my gut, I guess. And honestly, I don't mind telling you this, but I feel like the first album is definitely like a first album.
Mm,
And it is rough in all the ways that a first album is rough, but it's
yeah.
also a very sincere sort of output. And so there's something about it to me. And then your album cover just feels like it matches so well. And I could not be more grateful that you let us use that album cover for that.
Oh
Because it
yeah, of
just, the
course.
whole feeling, the whole picture, it just feels like, oh my God, it's like this is an artistic statement. And so the same way with this, I feel like if I want to put something out into the world, I want whatever's visually representing it to be something that is also like some kind of statement
Yeah.
that feels a certain way and looks a certain way. I don't want to just have something that's sort of like, just blasé. I want the album cover itself to be art.
Hmm.
And and to me, this feels more like solitary, stoic,
Yeah.
but like the fact that it's, I don't know, like there's something about the light, the way the light pokes in. I don't know, a lot of your artwork, especially these ones that we've just gone through tonight, they're the types of pictures that you can just kind of look at for a really long time because there's so much going on, but they're also very moody, you
Yeah.
know? And this one I like a lot so much because the other ones that were urban, I thought, oh, why don't I use another urban one because the first one was urban?
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm about to move upstate to upstate New York.
Mm.
I lived upstate when I was in college. It was more of a collegiate thing. I've become more of like a stoic person. To me, like a reading room is sort of like this stoic thing in a way.
Yeah.
And it just feels kind of like, and I don't know, like this asks more questions than it answers, and I like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know, there's one aspect I haven't even gotten into, but if you're an illustrator and you've been doing what I've been doing for so long, one of the side benefits of creating artwork like this and illustrating all these things is that it's a very solitary thing to do to begin with. It's like if you're a writer, right? Like it's a one-man operation where like you literally are just in your own head, right? And everything comes from there. So what happens often is you tend to sort of just put on your headphones, right? And like literally in a year, if you were to sit and draw on a regular basis, right, every day, a number of hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever, in a year, suddenly you will have heard while you're creating all this, you will have listened to the like collected works of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and on audiobooks you would have heard the collected works of like William Shakespeare and you know I don't know whoever, right? Like something you wouldn't normally do. Like who sits and reads collected works of Shakespeare these days, right? But it's like if you're already doing something, it's nice to have, and it's read by Jeremy Irons or somebody with a good voice, and suddenly it's like you're listening to all these stories and all the music that you're listening to sort of seeps into what you're doing, you know? music for me is like, I'm a huge music buff, you know. Um, but I use music in for different purposes uh, when I work. Like there's certain types of work where there's certain types of music that I would definitely not put on. If you know what I mean, it's sort of like if you use music a lot, like to get in a certain kind of mood, right?
Hmm.
And that's what you're talking about, like with your new new album, your new music. That mood, or because it's more of a mood than a style, really, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that's going to set the tone for the whole thing, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, the more I look at this picture, the more I want to make the music match, you know? And they're not recorded yet, most of
Oh,
it. So
right,
it's
right.
like, this is an opportunity to sort of like have a vision and make it consistent, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
there's also something about this picture that, I mean, now that I look at it like this, because like you said, it's done a long time ago, but there's something very playful about it because even though there's nobody there, it's definitely a place that I would feel comfortable myself, right? Surrounded by books, uh, pleasant lighting. There's all these things, toys, um, the piano. Everything is significant in some way or another. And then, the only thing that's really moving is the light, right? And I've always been fascinated with the way that light penetrates water and the way it dances sort of on the bottom of a pool or something, right? So there's something very playful about it, um, that I think maybe is something that's a part of your process right now, where you're at,
mhm.
because you're making decisions. You've already thought about it a lot. You're writing. You're coming up with things. So you're basically inventing, uh, right?
Yeah. I think, just what you said about looking at this image and thinking this is someplace where you would feel comfortable or
Yeah.
safe or something.
Yep.
I think that maybe that's how it feels to me. you know?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, oh, I would like to be in this room. I would like to sit in one of those chairs or even just lay on the floor, and read a book, read one of those and grab one of those books
Yeah.
and just, it's like it really is sort of like a sanctuary,
It
you
is
know?
very much. But let's be honest. It's the rug. It
It's the
tied
rug.
the tied the room together, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really an
Um,
interior design project.
yeah, it is. No, but it's also like one of those things, like, when I look at it now, it's like there's all these like expensive, rare like books, right?
Right.
But it's also a playroom. It's like, why would you have a dartboard? Like, if you were hitting a first edition of like some really rare book, right? No, but there's something like, no, it's kind of loose in a way, right?
Yeah.
Where where are all these like corridors? Where are they leading to?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's
uh,
there's a level of eccentricity to it.
there is, yeah,
Yeah. Like some really like mad genius decided to build this like mahogany,
yeah.
the gilded mahogany reading room at the
Yeah.
bottom of the ocean, you know?
It's almost like, if it was a Bond movie, it's like, would it be the villain or would it be M, his office
Yeah,
or
right. You
her
can't
office?
tell. That's exactly it. You can't tell if who
Yeah,
who uses this space because it could be.
yeah,
I'm sort of picturing like some sort of eccentric genius, like
yeah.
billionaire, but that person is potentially, their morality or their ethics are dubious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been on this, not even a phone, it's Zoom, but we've been on for a long time, so I think we should quit.
Yeah.
But I think we did a lot of really good work today. And I think that, oh my God, every time I say something, my phone thinks I'm talking to it. Um, so I really want to thank you so much for coming on the show, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been like I love doing this. It's so fun. And I love hearing, and actually just, I wanted to tell you before, I love seeing your face. We've been talking on the phone a lot, but I haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
you since, I don't know. It's been since
Yeah, it's been
like,
on like 15 years almost. Like, or no, actually, it's
I saw you in Oklahoma. I saw you for
that is
the
true.
high school reunion. So when was
Yep.
that? But that
Yep.
might have been,
That's a long time ago too.
it was probably before Elizabeth was born. So it was
Yeah.
probably 13, 14, 15 years ago.
And that was weird. That was like you and I were the only ones not packing heat at that
Who
freaking
said I
event.
wasn't?
Well, yeah, no. Well, you can tell me that now, but
No, I wasn't, of course not. But that was that was an experience for sure.
yeah, that sure was. Oh man.
So, Thomas, well, here's what we're going to do. I am going to, let's get all your, after the show,
Mhm.
whenever, at your convenience, because this is not going to come out for weeks. It
Okay.
takes me a while to get stuff out.
Mhm.
Um, just send me all your links. I'm going to start promoting all your stuff, get people familiar with you so that when this comes out, people say, oh, that's the guy he's been talking about, for weeks.
Yeah, yeah. Thank
So,
you.
but what's your website one more time?
I'm just gonna send it. It's just a Thomas Warming blog spot.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, man. Wonderful. Thank you so much again
Well,
for
thank
doing it.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
being on the show. Thanks for telling us your story.
Yeah. I hope it wasn't too boring.
Oh, it was awesome. And I think that it's like I never thought that having a show like this would be so rewarding, but I'm not kidding with you. When you're telling your story as a human being, it's so important for people to hear other people's stories, especially in the arts.
Yeah.
I actually am moved to tears, nearly to tears, when I'm on the show. Literally, just like, like at 40 minutes ago, while you were
Yeah.
telling your story, I'm literally sitting here, like, feeling like I'm tearing up because we're
Oh.
artists and we're telling our stories
Mm.
and, and we're putting something out into the world that maybe no one will watch it. Maybe no one will listen to this album. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But that's
Never
not the
mind.
point. You know what I mean?
No, 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 no. It's not.
This is a human thing. This is what human
Yeah.
beings do, and we do it, and there's meaning. It creates
Yeah.
meaning.
Yeah. And I'm
So,
sure I would feel the same way if I wasn't from Denmark. We don't have emotion. We don't even have tear ducts. It's like, yeah. No. Uh no,
that's
I'm
amazing. Okay, good.
you have to have emotion and put a lot of your emotion into whatever it is you do.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you're not going to get a reaction from anybody. I think that's really what it comes down to.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Keith.
Thanks, dude.
I shouldn't have been nervous. It wasn't that bad.
This is so fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. We'll do it
Yeah,
again sometime.
we definitely should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I look forward to really like hearing more where your whole music now is going.
Okay. Well,
So that'll be very interesting.
the next song is going to be the B side to the first track,
Hmm.
and it's going to be sort of like Foxy Lady meets I Want You, She's So Heavy.
I'm fucking in.
So,
Those are two of my go-to
so
songs.
yeah, so
So
that's kind of the
yeah.
vibe for it. But
Oh wow,
it's
man.
going to be maybe a little bit more indie rock than that, I probably, but like we're going to go for that. That's the vibe I told my producer that we're going for.
Well, that's exciting.
We'll see if we're successful,
Yeah. Well, I'll be your test audience. I'm here. You can always get my impression.
Yeah,
That's for
great.
sure.
Thanks,
All
man.
right, Keith.
All right, dude. Yes.
Thank
Have
you,
a
man.
wonderful evening. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Have a good
Later.
one.
Bye.
Bye.